We are at the Nissan dealer. We came to pick up our Altima because it got dropped off because of some recalls. So we came in F150, and unfortunately this turd is gonna have to get towed back to the house. It's about a 45-minute drive. I don't know if you guys can see this very well, but there is smoke coming from the front right wheel, and she was the one driving. She noticed that it started to get hard to accelerate, and sure enough, I looked at it and I could see all the discoloration in the rotor. Ton of smoke coming off of this thing. I could smell the burning. Basically this front right caliper is locked up. So this Ford's gonna have to get towed back to the house, and we're just gonna drive the Nissan back since they're all done with it. Yeah, that's unfortunate. It sucks because it's gonna get a little bit pricey trying to do this, because on the two-wheel drive version, the rotor is integrated to the wheel bearing, so you have to change the rotor / wheel bearing. It's gonna need new caliper, new pads, and also a new brake hose coming from the body of the car to the caliper, because everything's so right away. If you try to disconnect that brake hose from the caliper and try to reuse it, it's not gonna happen. It's just gonna snap or something. So that's unfortunate. And you know what, I told her, let's take the Nissan Versa to go pick up your Nissan. No, let's take the F-150. We never drive it, but now it's gonna cost us a tow truck. So here I am working on the Ford F-150. We have our new parts in. We have a new rotor / wheel bearing because it's all one assembly, new set of pads, new caliper and bracket, and a new brake hose. So far everything came apart really easy, except for one thing, and I knew this was going to be the problem right here, is the hard line going into the brake hose. I knew it was going to be rusted together. This thing normally bolts up to the frame right there, but it was on there so tight that the bracket just kept on flexing. So what I was trying to do was put a lot of heat using my map gas into this fitting right here. You don't want to put it on the fitting on the brake line. You just want to put it in here to try to expand that metal to let go of the fitting. And like I said, this bracket kept flexing way too much, so I took the bracket off. I came in here with a adjustable wrench, and I just held the fitting right here, and it let me get my tool. Now this isn't the correct size, but let me get my tool in here and break that free while I was holding this end. And with it off of the car, it actually gives you better access like this, because when it's bolted up, this piece is actually facing towards the back of the car, making it more difficult to remove. So this is the way to go, and I finally got it to break free. So this fitting right here is loose. Say 3 hallelujahs, right? So at this point, I think all the hard work is done. We got all the old parts off, and it's just a matter of slapping all the new ones on. We are just about done here. Got the new rotor and wheel bearing on. That just slipped right on. I still have to torque that down. That actually gets torqued down to a really high torque spec. And yes, I know you're supposed to replace a nut, but I forgot to buy a new one, so we're gonna have to reuse the old one. Here goes new caliper, new hardware, new pads. Make sure to grease up the slide pins. New brake hose. As you can see, everything's torqued down. Yeah, so it's looking pretty good. Now honestly, in my opinion, when something like this happens where a caliper fails, you should replace all this stuff. This is the correct way to do it, to have no problems at all. And sure, you could get away with doing less. Like honestly, the bare minimum would be like replacing the caliper, and that's it, right? You know, this is the right way to fix it. And it's not only because this is our car and we drive it, it's just the right way to do it. Like if we sold this car to someone else, you know, I'd have peace of mind that I fixed it the right way, and nothing else isn't gonna fail over here. You know, some stupid problem or something like that. Remember, never go half-ass on things, always full ass. So I just finished gravity bleeding this caliper. We had brake fluid coming out, you could see it right there, and I took this opportunity to pretty much suck all the brake fluid out of the reservoir because the fluid was like super black. So I sucked out as much as I can using my vacuum pump here, and I just went ahead and topped it off with brand new brake fluid. Now I know it's not a real flush because we're not bleeding at each caliper, but it's better than nothing. All right, so we're pretty much all set. The system is completely bled. The pedal feels absolutely fantastic. Now I got in the truck and I held my foot on the brake pedal for a good 20-30 seconds with good heavy firm pressure, and come back here and check all my connections. No leaks there, nothing there. Of course, I dried everything before, and check back here as well. Everything's completely dry, no leaks at all. So I'm just gonna grab the other set of pads. We'll put them on the front left side, and that'll be it for this one. All right, quick test drive in the Ford. Brakes feel great. and no more locked up caliper. So this thing's all set. Got this 2016 Chevy Equinox. Owner's having drivability issues. Basically, it would like randomly stall or shut off, and just hesitation when trying to accelerate. So you can see we have a intake camshaft actuator solenoid valve control circuit. All right, and it's only for intake. It doesn't say anything about the exhaust one. So anyway, I looked at this car probably about a week ago, and it's back. And what I found was that when I check resistance on the intake solenoid, and I just did it again to verify it, I get nothing, almost like there's an open here. But when I put my meter on resistance, or continuity, I mean, I do get a beeping sound here, but it's not always there. It's kind of like if you kind of go like this while you got your connections on it, it'll make and break contact. Continuity meter will just go on and off. But as far as resistance, I can't really get any resistance values out of this. And then here goes a OEM. I don't want to say OEM, it's AC Delco, but I'm pretty sure it's OEM for the intake side. And this has about 12 ohms of resistance, and continuity is always there. It's always made contact. The resistance is always showing up. Basically, it's a good part. So I got my meter on basically continuity test. You can see it's giving off some numbers right there. Sorry about the glare, but I am making contact. But the thing is, this is a continuity test. That meter should be beeping, and I am making contact because look, we are getting numbers right there. So the sound we should be hearing if these two things were connected is this. As you saw, we were getting a number on here, but it wasn't even enough to make this thing beep to show that there's continuity. And let's go over to the new one. I know I'm just beating a dead horse here, but let's go to a new one. I'm making contact right here on the new part. There's our resistance, which is way lower than the other one. And you could actually hear the beeping sound because there's continuity in here. So yeah, it needs a new solenoid for the intake side. But I decided if it's getting one, it's getting both. So we also have a OEM exhaust solenoid. So let's go ahead and change them out. All right, so I got both of the new parts installed, cleared the check engine light, taking it out for a test drive now. And honestly, it drives like a normal car now. Before, anytime you came to a complete stop, either the engine would shut off, or when you go to accelerate, it would just hesitate like crazy. And now, all of that is gone. So I'm just gonna keep driving it around, make sure everything's good, and if that's it, then that's it. I'll give it back to the owner and she could be on her way. I've got this Chevy Malibu here. I don't know, it's probably like a 04. I'm not 100%. I think it's 05 actually. Anyway, it's here for a front wheel bearing. Now, when this car initially came here like a week ago, I could not distinguish which wheel bearing was bad. I couldn't tell if it was the front left or front right. And it's not bad to the point where there's actually play in the wheel because everything feels nice and solid. It's just a noise. So whenever you drive, the faster you drive, the louder the noise gets, obviously. So I told the owner, you know what, for the sake of not wasting money, because if you took this to a shop and the shop can't distinguish immediately which wheel bearing it is, what are they going to do? They're going to say, oh, your car needs 2 front wheel bearings. It just kind of covers their butt, right? They're not sure which one it is. They don't want to get it wrong, so they say your car just needs 2 front wheel bearings and send you down the road. And since we're not trying to put too much money into this car, we're just trying to fix what's necessary. I told the owner what I'll do is we could go ahead and order 1 wheel bearing, because to me it kind of sounds like the front right side. Like I said, it's really difficult to tell, but if I had to pick one, I'd pick the front right side is where we're at right now. I told her I'll take it apart, see what the bearing sounds like. If it sounds like it's still in decent shape, then I'll just put it into work. I'll go on the other side and take that side apart, and we'll spin that side. Basically, whichever one sounds like it's bad, that's the one that's getting the new wheel bearing. So here I am on the front right side, and you can see I got the CV shaft removed. Hopefully you guys can hear that. So with that noise that we have here, I am 100% going to be able to justify putting the wheel bearing on the front right side. Now, in the case that we put the new wheel bearing on and she still has a noise going down the road, the only thing that tells me is this car needed 2 front wheel bearings from the very beginning. It's not that, oh, you chose the wrong one, you put the new wheel bearing on the wrong side. No, because this one, that is too much noise for a wheel bearing. So it clearly does need it. So I accidentally ordered the wrong wheel bearing because, well, I mean, it still fits the car, but I ordered the one with the ABS sensor, and this one clearly does not have ABS on it. So it's as simple as grabbing a hammer and knocking off this ring, and that's it. This thing can now go on just like this, and now it looks like the original one, no problems at all. So it's gonna bolt up just fine. As you can see, I got all this cleaned up, got all the corrosion out of there as much as I can. It's an old knuckle, so of course it's beat up. You can see it's got that gold tint on it. After cleaning it with brake parts cleaner, I sprayed it with CRC to protect the metal. So let's go ahead, put on the shield first, and then we'll pop in the new wheel bearing. Let's go ahead and spin it so we could hear a difference on what a good wheel bearing sounds like. What's that you say? You can't hear anything? Exactly. So there's a crazy amount of salt tucked inside of this truck. That's nothing. I've already knocked out big old chunks out of it. I've been trying to clean this off. Look at that piece just broke off. There's just a ton of it here. So I got the hammer and chisel here trying to knock it out. Look at the big chunks on the ground. Yeah, guys, that's just salt and crap from the road that they put down on the road here in Illinois. And it just gets trapped behind here and just eats everything away. So I've been trying to chisel at it little by little. We're back with this Chevy Malibu. This is the one that I did the timing chain on because it sounded like a box of wrenches inside the engine. So it's still going strong. Engine still sounds decent. It's still going. Anyway, this may be the last time we ever see this car because not only is their family moving away from where I live, but she's also going off to college. So this is like the last little bit of maintenance it's gonna get before she takes it off to college. So we probably and most likely won't ever see this car again. Anyway, I'm just gonna basically top off fluids on it, look over things, and apparently they threw in at the last second to put front brake pads on it. Now I told her there's something wrong with the brakes, and she's like, they're just a little weird. I didn't know what the hell that means. So anyways, look at that front pad. There is almost no friction material left. This thing is almost down, but I mean like right on time, right? And then here goes the inboard pad. Same thing on this side, super thin, and the wear indicator was actually making contact, so that was kind of squealing right there. But it's nice to see that everything, look, the pads were down evenly, super even. Okay, the pads came off nice and smooth, no hammering to get them off. Both of the slide pins move freely. Everything's good. Now I did these brakes like over 2 years ago, and you can see how nice everything wore down. Everything still moves freely. Everything's looking a-okay. So I'm really happy to see that the brakes are holding up well. And it's as simple as doing a little bit of cleaning and pop the new pads on. Unfortunately, we just have like the basic pads that come from AutoZone. Get in the zone, AutoZone. So nothing fancy, no hardware kit or anything. But the ones I put on a few years ago, after a little cleaning, they still look decent. All right, so yeah, let's go ahead and slap these pads on it. I've got this 2014 Chevy Impala. It's here for brakes, pads, and rotors. I already did the front right side. Don't just love when they show up and I could just hear the brakes grinding and they just like, oh yeah, it's just this side, so calmly, like nothing, like it's normal. This is normal. So honestly, guys, I don't even get surprised. I see this and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, it just needs brakes. I don't even give people a face or acting like I'm surprised or nothing like that. It's normal around here. Anyway, you can see how this rotor is completely chewed up, right? Look at the pad. Well, what's supposed to be the pad. Sorry about the sun, guys. I'm trying to block it out for you. But there's absolutely no friction material left on it. That's why it's metal on metal. And it's gotten so bad that the pad has actually fallen out of the bracket. You can see it's no longer sitting in its designated spot. The pad is actually just wedged inside of here, inside of the caliper. Another thing I noticed is Look at the brake hose. See it all twisted up like that? So someone's been inside of here doing a DIY job. They probably found a Chris Fix video somewhere on the e-web. But this thing also needs 2 outer tie rods and a front right wheel bearing on the front right side, and I'll show you guys that right now. The reason for that is because the sensor is broken. But let's go ahead and knock out these brakes today, and we'll be sure to fix this wound up hose right here. And of course, it wouldn't be an Impala if it didn't have the classic knocking on the inside blend door actuator, right? This is the same car that the heat didn't work during the winter, and the guy didn't want to invest the money because it had a bad blower motor resistor and connector. Everything was melted. He didn't want to put the money into it. He figured, no, I could just man it out. So here he is driving around all bundled up with blankets on and everything. And let's just say he couldn't take the heat, okay? He couldn't take the cold, I suppose. So he ended up just having me fix it, and we got his heat working. We got that one blend door on that side fixed because it wasn't working at all, but he still has one on this side, and he's like, nope, you know what, forget it, I'm not going to invest the money in that, and just leave it. You know, it's just me personally, I'm not going to sit here and suffer every single day listening to that garbage just to save a few bucks, because an OEM part on Rock Auto is pretty cheap. Labor is pretty cheap, at least if I do it. You know, it's even something he could do himself if he found a YouTube video. Point is, it's not expensive to fix this problem. Yeah, I would not suffer every day like this, but you know, you can't tell people where to spend their money. You know, people will deal with annoying noises like this every single day just to save a few bucks. It just absolutely blows my mind. Anyway, whatever, right? I'm just getting off topic here. Let's go ahead and knock out these front brakes. And there we have it. This thing is all set. New rotors, new pads. The brake hose is no longer kinked or bent in a way it shouldn't be. And that's just about it. Take it out for a test ride, make sure the brakes are fine, and you can send this turd down the road. Of course, it needs a ton of other crap, but that's not what it's here for. I got this Impala in the garage. You can probably see that tail lights are on, yet no one's in the car. So the owner is saying that the tail lights are staying on constantly. Alright, so right now I'm just looking at the back of the CRX to look at the tail lights of the Impala. You can see they're on right now, but that's normal. That's just the lights that turn on when you turn on your headlights, because this thing has like auto headlights. But what I'm going to do is push the brake pedal, right? You guys could see how bright the light is on the CRX. So I just let go of the pedal right now, and you can see the light is still lit up. See, I'm not touching the brake pedal. My hand's over here. And if we look at the back of the CRX, you can see the brake lights are still on. But all I'm going to do is grab the brake pedal and push it forward, just like that, just a hair. And look at that, the brake light is off. I'm gonna go ahead and push down the pedal once again. Brake lights are on, and I let go of the pedal and the lights are still on, and I'm just gonna go ahead and pull back on the pedal one more time, and the light is off. Basically, the brake switch has a very small window of where it turns off the brake lights. I don't know if there's any adjustment you could do to the brake switch on these, because I know it has like a peg to align it, and then it has a bolt. We'll see if we can do something, but I think I may have a new switch for this that I may have ordered a while ago, but I gotta go look. Alright, it looks like this thing's going to need a blender actuator. You can see I took down the glove box because that thing is just clicking away over there. The brake switch. So I loosened the 1 7mm bolt and I adjusted the switch just a hair. There isn't much play there. There's just once you loosen a bolt, it's pretty much set in stone. There's like a hair amount of wiggle room that you have to move it around. So all I did is I moved it, tightened it back down, and I'm just gonna go ahead, push the brake pedal a few times, and if we zoom in back there again on the CRX, so I'm gonna go ahead, push the brake pedal, lights on, let go of the brake pedal, lights off, and I'm just gonna continue to push it on and off, and you can see it turns on and off now. Alright, so here in the scanner I did find a brake pedal position sensor calibration, which I went ahead and did that test. It took like 2 seconds, and did it make a difference? Probably not, but it was that easy to do. So we'll figure out why the power locks aren't working. Alright, so even from the scanner, when I try to lock and unlock the doors, nothing happens. One of the rear doors, initially I could hear something moving, but that's about it, just like she said. But to me it seems like I can't really get any of the doors to work. Take the keys out. Hit the lock button. Yeah, I didn't see any of the lock actuators move or anything. So this one, it's still unlocked even though I hit the lock button. And let's try to unlock the rear door. Nothing. Unlock the rear door and nothing. None of these actuators are working. I don't know what she's talking about. She said one of them was, but the other three didn't. But it seems like all four of them are out. You know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and slap the rear pads on this car. And looks like this car is going to need some parts and a little bit more testing. I'm gonna want to take off one of these door panels to see if we're actually getting power to the actuator. If we are getting power to that actuator every time we hit the key fob, then it's a done deal. These things need to be replaced again. It's crazy. I freaking hate these Impalas, man. It's like they all come back for the same freaking problems over and over again. Alright, so it's sometime later we are back with this Impala. As you can see, we have a new brake switch here, so this is a brand new part. I'm gonna go ahead, install the part, and then we'll I guess recalibrate it using the scanner. And hopefully she doesn't have any more issues with the brake lights. Ever since I adjusted this one and calibrated it, she said she hasn't had any more issues with the brake lights staying on, and that was I don't know, maybe like 2 or 3 weeks ago. So yeah, it's been some time. I got the new sensor installed. As you can see, I'm using a hood prop to push on the brake pedal. Now I have not calibrated anything at the moment. I just finished installing the sensor. You can see the tail lights are lit. Let me go ahead and depress the pedal or release the pedal. Brake lights are off. All right, so it's already working. But I'm still gonna go ahead, connect the scanner, and recalibrate everything. So it is a good few weeks later, and we have some parts for this Impala. Not all the parts, of course, because it gets expensive when you're buying OEM parts. It turns out the parts that I put on the door were not OEM, and the only reason why we could tell this is because the price difference. Like, the OEM parts are so expensive that if you add up what everything costs on what we changed before, there's no way in heck the owner knows she paid that much. So she's like, yeah, no, I didn't pay anywhere near that much last time. So that tells me we didn't use OEM parts, and this actuator has failed. And as far as the blender actuators, I never replaced any in this car. I thought I did, but nope. So this would be the first time, and we do have a AC Delco part for that blender actuator over there. All right, so I went through all this trouble. I got the old actuator out, only to find out the new one isn't the correct part. The connector where it plugs in right there is not the same. Yeah, I may not be able to return this. It's an electrical part. It's already been opened and technically installed on the car. That sucks because now I got to put the old one back in and put all this stuff back together. So here goes the new one on the left. See that connector? And here's the one that came off on the right. So, yep, that sucks. All right, so I don't know what's going on here because I went on Rock Auto's website, checked the part numbers, and this one says for LT model. The back of this car says LT. Anyway, you can see this is a 7-pin connector, and the one that came off of it is a, what is it, a 5-pin connector. So I'm going to show you guys some pictures right here from Rock Auto, and it looks like the one that says front left, just regular, it doesn't say anything, is the one that matches up with this 5-pin connector. And the one that says for LT models has this 7-pin connector, which obviously isn't right. Let's go look at the back of this car. There we go, Impala LT. So I have no idea. That's why we bought the one that says for the LT model. I don't know what the heck's going on here, but clearly it's not the right part. We need the other one. So I got that door all put back together. We're just gonna have to order the correct part. As far as the blender actuator, here goes the old one right here in the package. I've already installed a new one. You can see it back there with the connector on it. So that's all set. Yeah, that's it. There's nothing else we can do. We have to get the correct part now. So it's a few days later. We are back with this Impala. We got the correct part now. I got the car up on ramps. You can probably see that right there because it also needs a oil change. So I'm gonna go ahead and get all that started. We're gonna pull this door panel off, and it also needs rear turn signal bulbs because the left turn indicator is flashing very quickly. I did check it. It is the rear bulb. So we got that here. Now as far as the new part, you know, Rock Auto wanted pictures and they wanted the VIN number, so I supplied them with that. I gave them the VIN number and I showed them the picture of the part that came off the car versus the one they sent me. And after they looked everything over, they said, you know what, it was a mistake in our computer system. Yeah, that part clearly does not fit your car. So they said send it back at a 100% refund. Normally when you send items back, you always got to pay for shipping yourself. In this case, they covered everything. So I went ahead and ordered a new one because, you know, we got no time to be waiting on this stuff. So I ordered a new one before I was even able to get a refund for the old one. You know, because it's not the customer's fault that we got the wrong part. So it's why I do things like this. Sure, it's more money out of my pocket, but that's just initially. Eventually I'll get a refund for it, you know what I mean? So it's not a big issue. But we do have the correct part now, and it's nice to see that AutoZone AutoZone has me brainwashed. It's nice to see that Rock Auto's kind of stepped up to the plate and said, yeah, our bad. And here goes the burned out bulb. You can see how bad that looks. And the blinker is now working normally. Alright, so I got the new assembly just kind of loosely sitting here. What I want to do is basically test the system, make sure everything's working. So we're going to replicate the door being shut, which would be right there. So at this point, and the module or the assembly is plugged in. So at this point, the car thinks that the door is closed. Let's go ahead and hit the lock button. Alright, it moved. And we should not be able to open this. So if I go ahead and pull this right here, and the reason why I'm not pulling on this with my finger is because I already got a piece of metal jammed in there the first time I went to grab this. So yeah, that wasn't fun. Anyway, pulling on this thing does absolutely nothing. But let's go ahead and unlock the door now. Okay, it's unlocked. And now when I pull on this cable, you're gonna see it unlock. There it goes. So everything works just as it should. I'm just gonna button everything up and put it all back together. Alright, so I got the latch all bolted down, and I put a little bit of blue thread locker on each of these bolts because they usually have thread locker when they come from factory. So what I want to do is one final test. Everything in the inside is connected, hopefully. Okay, so door latches. Let's hit the lock button. You saw that thing move right there. Door does not open. Unlock button, and we are in business. All right, so that's it. It works. And yeah, unfortunately, like I said, we changed, I think, 3 actuators on this car. We changed the driver's side, front passenger, and the rear passenger, and all of them have stopped working. I guess that's what you get when you use aftermarket parts, right? They didn't even last that long. So yeah, I told the owner if she wants it fixed right, unfortunately she's gonna have to dish out the money to buy OEM parts. So that's what we got here. This is an OEM part, and obviously it's the most important door because it's the driver door. So she said she'll just get them fixed little by little as she goes along, you know, using the correct OEM parts. But that's it. Let me go ahead and button this up.